So today, March 14th, I decided that I wanted to make a video of my experience from yesterday, my birthday, March 13th, 2020. And what a crazy day it was. Starting again yesterday, March 13th, Friday the 13th, 2020, at about about 1:30, my coworker heads out for lunch, and I look back at the clock at 1:31, and all of a sudden my chest tightens. Literally, that's the best way that I could put it, is it just tightens. Along with my throat swelling up, I started to lose my voice. My airway was partially restricted, cold sweats, the whole 9 yards, right? I feel like I went from feeling fine to absolute shit. So I wait literally like 10 minutes and maybe even 15 minutes, and I still feel the same way. So I texted my coworker, I called him, I was like, hey man, something just hit me fucking hard. I feel like shit, I'm leaving. Now, we had plans in my company to be working from home over the next week and, see how things go and all that good stuff. But this hit me out of nowhere. So I wound up leaving. Now, this is where the process really starts. So if you aren't feeling well, who would be the first person you tell or ask? Your doctor, probably, right? So I call my doctor and I say, hey, I'm not feeling well. I'd like to come in. Their first question is, have you been in direct contact with anyone who's tested positive for the coronavirus? And my answer to them was, I don't know if they tested positive, but I know I was in direct contact with people whose family members were quarantined. So they started asking me the questions. What are your symptoms? I tell them I have a cough, my chest is tight, there's pain in my chest, I have a headache and some aches, and they're like, they replied with, since you have pain in your chest and when you cough, that's one of the symptoms of COVID-19, so you can't come into the office. I said, okay, so what do I do? They said, you have to call the coronavirus hotline for New York. I was like, okay. So I call coronavirus hotline. They say, hey, what's going on? They ask me similar questions. What are your symptoms? Have you been in contact with anyone who's tested positive? I reply to them the same way. These are my symptoms: tightness in my chest, in my throat, headache, cold sweats, pain in my chest when I cough, blah, blah, whatever. Along with not knowing if other people who have been in contact with family members, siblings, whatever, were tested positive. So they say that I have to go into my doctor and get tested for the flu and strep throat. But I'm like, they just told me I can't come in there because I'm experiencing one of the symptoms. So what do I do? They're like, okay, well, there's going to be this other number from New York State coronavirus hotline that we're going to give you, but you have to have your doctor call them and tell them that a patient of yours may or may not have been in contact with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19. So that's what I did. I called my doctor back. By this point, I'm like losing my breath, losing my voice. It's like gone almost. And I let them know what the deal is. Hey, you have to reach out to this number and tell them what's going on. So they told me it would be about 30 minutes, 45 minutes goes by. I was just about to call my doctor and they called me and they said, hey, so we found local to you in Orange County, a hospital or a place that is testing for, or have tests left for coronavirus. So my thought here is like, oh my gosh, like I can get tested for it, this is a huge relief. Like I could actually find out if I have it, if I don't have it, because a lot of other places have very minimal tests, and it's very difficult, if you will, to get tested for it because of the limited supply. So, and Orange Regional Medical Center is literally like right up the road from me. So they had some tests left, and I said I was on my way. So driving to Orange Regional Medical Center, obviously my brain was going crazy. I'm thinking to myself, do I have it? Do I not have it? I'm staying away from my family. I'm not letting them get close to me. I'm freaking out because the doctor and the coronavirus hotline both have stated that I have one of the symptoms of COVID-19. Now, and prior to this, I was tested for the flu at the end of January, beginning of February. So pretty recent, if you will. I have not traveled outside of the country, and the only things that I do are go to work. So I hardly go out. I never go out. I am focused on my goals and what I want to do, and that involves me earning, saving, and investing money. So anyway, back on track. I'm on my way to the hospital, and I'm pulling up, to the emergency room, park, get out, walk up, and right outside of the doors to the emergency room are a number of different RNs who, are full mask, scrubs over their scrubs. They have this full system on how to be able to, pretty much discard everything they're wearing. They have to wear a face mask with goggles, 2 face masks sometimes if, the one gentleman doctor had a beard, had to wear, so they're covered up the whole 9 yards there. So I let them know. They said, hey, what's going on? I said, listen, I was just sent here by my doctor. These are my symptoms. Again, the first question they asked, have you been in contact with anyone who was tested positive? So I explained them to again. I don't know if they tested positive. I was in contact with someone who was in direct contact with someone who was quarantined. So they walk me over, they give me a face mask immediately, put that on, and they walk me over around to where the ambulance bays are. And there's this huge yellow tent that people are sitting in right outside the tent. They give you your vitals, pulse, oxygen levels, all that good stuff, and then you repeat the process again. What are your symptoms? How are you feeling? Blah blah whatever. So and then you wait in this tent, which is technically, I guess, the quarantine zone. And now their process for testing is you start with vitals. Then you go and sit in the test. Then you're going to have another RN, come over, ask you some questions, make sure to get your insurance information, let them know, the symptoms you're having, and, next of kin, all of that good stuff. So, at this point, I had already taken my vitals, and they had already taken all my information. So after that, you wait for a flu swab and a strep throat swab and a coronavirus swab test. So they're all swabs. The first of which goes up your right nostril, and then that's that. Then they give you this little vial to hold on to, which is whatever. So when they do the next test, then some time goes by and they swab my throat for strep throat. And then after that, they do the strep throat swab along with the coronavirus swab. And at this point, 3 swabs have been done. So after the testing of your vitals and the swabs for strep, flu, and COVID-19, they bring you into the ambulance bay and put a sheet behind you for an x-ray, for a chest x-ray. They tell you to take in the deepest breath that you can, to take a picture to make sure that they can see how your lungs are looking, if there's tearing, if there's the spread of the COVID-19 virus, as you probably see many pictures on social media, news articles, and the news. I hold on to it. Again, it's like this. It's a vial about 3 inches or so, 3.5 inches, and you have to, after the swab, they place it in this like reddish liquid, and they break the top off. They have to break it and then screw the top back on. So, but I need to hold on to that because there was other people there. So when the time came, they came up to me, they took it, they put everything in a bag, sent it out for testing, because what they're trying to determine here is do you just have a flu? Do you just have a fever? Do you have strep throat? Do you have something else other than the coronavirus? Because the media is propping this stuff up crazy. It's everywhere. It is, excuse me, it is everywhere. So, yeah, they're trying to, eliminate the possibility of you having something other than this COVID-19. So anyway, there's people coming in, after me. They just have a stuffy nose, they have fevers, they're coughing. It's a mess. It's a mess. But again, they could just not be feeling well like they normally would have if this, epidemic was, or the pandemic isn't happening, and they'd get over it, right? But since you can't just go into your doctor's office, and since you can't just be okay having the flu and getting tested for that, you need to get tested for COVID-19 because you could have potentially had it. People were coming in who didn't have contact with anyone who had it, but they're just saying, hey, my kids have been in schools or just going to the supermarket, and people are freaking out because truthfully, they don't know. And that's the facts, is you don't know who could be carrying it or not. And, just turned 28 yesterday. I feel, in the age range of relatively young, although I feel old, relatively young in regards to the, elder crowd who has shown severe, symptoms and, So anyway, after all of this, testing, you wait. I was actually there for just under 4 hours. Generally, even the doctor said early on in the day they were banging them out every hour or so. But I guess whatever happened. So it was about 4 hours later. So after getting tested, about that 4 hour period of time, they come back to me and say that my COVID-19 is negative, which I was so happy to hear, because unfortunately a woman sitting next to me, when the chairs were literally like 3 feet apart or less, like 2 feet maybe, probably a foot and a half actually. So anyway, what I'm getting at is I heard the doctor tell her that she was positive for corona, so I was freaking out. But then shortly after my test results came back, COVID-19 negative. I had a flu strain in me that it was causing the aches and slight fever, and they wound up concluding that I have bronchitis, and the inflammation and the throat and chest pains and everything is coming from that. So they have prescribed antibiotics and an inhaler. So that's that. That was my experience. I was extremely scared that, I could have potentially gotten it, and who knows, with the people I was in contact with at work and my family and all of that stuff. So my conclusion to all of this, and the reason I made this video, is to not panic, okay? If you're not feeling well, you're probably okay. Yes, reach out to your doctor and try to get tested to make sure you don't have it, obviously, because if you carry it around with you, sometimes there's symptoms that aren't shown for up to 24 days. Mine, I haven't felt anything for the past week and a half, so who knows? But all I'm getting at is you're probably not going to test positive for it, but if you do, you may. The younger crowd, it's not going to affect you as much as the older crowd. We know this. But again, in conclusion, with everything in the news and the panic and all of this stuff, it is very easy to think that you have it. Or you could trick your brain into thinking that you're sick. And realistically, all you have is bronchitis. So with that being said, I'm grateful. One love. So much for a good Friday the 13th birthday. No, I'm just kidding. It was a good day, though. Peace.